and crafting, devoid of modern industrial surfaces and finishes, people had little mastery of the natural world. Uncertain weather left them vulnerable to poor harvests. Epidemic diseases, above all the dreaded bubonic plague, constantly threatened. In part, because medical care was largely ineffective, the average life expectancy was much shorter than today. 32 to 34 years at birth in England around 1500, with few adults living beyond their 50s. Traveling was difficult and frequently dangerous, and overland trade with heavy or bulky commodities meant expensive and cumbersome transport, which is why grain, timber, wool, and cloth nearly always went by water, whether in ships that hugged the coastlines from the Baltic to the Mediterranean, or in barges that navigated the many rivers, the Rhine, Loire, Danube, Elbe, Po, and more, vital to Europe's trade. Even the fastest communications were slow. Around 1500, letters dispatched by courier from Brussels to Venice, for example, took 10 days to arrive at their destinations. Despite Europe's overwhelmingly rural character, cities were disproportionately important as centers of trade, artisanal manufacturing, education, and culture. Still, Cologne, the largest city in the vast expanse of Central Europe, had a population of only around 40,000, while London's 60,000 residents were largely concentrated within a square mile. In fact, aside from London, before the Reformation, England boasted only 2 towns with as many as 10,000 inhabitants. In cities and villages alike, when the sun went down, it got dark. There was no electricity. There were no gas street lamps. Paris, the largest city in all of Europe, with maybe 200,000 people, was lit at night with torches, as was every other city. And dark meant dangerous, which is why city dwellers guarded their urban walls night and day. In a world without professional police forces or standing armies, keeping out suspicious travelers and would-be intruders was a priority. Religion as more than religion. Besides these radical differences in the material conditions of life, religion held an utterly different place in society than it does in Western countries today. In our time, religion is considered an individual choice, and that choice includes the option not to be religious at all. Religion today is a distinct area of life, separate from your career, professional relationships, recreational activities, consumer behavior, and so on. None of this was true in the early 16th century. Religion was neither a matter of choice nor separate from the rest of life. Except for the Jews, who made up a tiny percentage of Europe's population around 1500, everyone became a Christian through being baptized with water. Baptism was a prerequisite for the possibility of eternal salvation after death. Almost always, baptism took place just days after birth. That way, if a baby died, as 1 in 4 did from disease or malnutrition before their first birthday, she would be saved by God. Baptism was a rite of initiation into the local parish church and into the community in which you lived. Like the other sacraments, it also conferred God's grace, His spiritual presence and power in and through the material world He had created. Except in emergencies, when there was immediate danger of an infant's death, baptism was administered by the local priest. He had joined the clergy through a special ritual of ordination, and his vow of celibacy and duty to administer the sacraments set him apart from lay people, who made up the large majority of Christians. A parish was coextensive with the local community. A small village would often be a single parish, while a city might include many parishes, each of them an urban neighborhood. Europe included tens of thousands of parishes, reaching from Scandinavia to the Iberian and Italian peninsulas. Rural and urban parishes alike belonged to the Catholic Church, which had its administrative and symbolic center in Rome and was headed by the Pope. Parishes were geographically organized into dioceses, the Church's administrative units, each headed by a bishop responsible for overseeing all the parishes and priests in his diocese. For most Christians, however, the Pope and even bishops remained remote figures. Local experience of the Church meant participation in a web of social relationships, of family, kin, and neighbors, linked by customs, rituals, and worship led by a priest.